welcome back to another episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. My name's Brandon. I'm CEO and co-founder of HBG Capital, and today I want to break down the nitty-gritty on how these real estate deals and these real estate syndications and the deals that say we're looking for accredited investors in the apartment complexes and the commercial buildings and the office business, how all these deals are able to advertise and pay double-digit returns. A lot of the times we've grown up with a lot of advice that has been cemented in our brain and prevents us from making the leap and doing the things that we need to do to really get our portfolio off the ground, or at least diversify it until preventing it from taking a really big hit. And I know a lot of people are really essentially they invest in a lot of stocks. Too much of their portfolio is invested in stocks, and this can become a huge problem. And so when you start to see these crazy returns, you start thinking about some of that advice that's been implanted in your head as like a little kid, and you just grew up with it. And one of those is, if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is. And for the most part, I'd say I'd have to agree with that. I'll tell you a quick story. I was 19 years old. I was in Seattle, Washington. I spent my summers in between college going door to door selling ADT home protection systems. And I was at a gas station filling up when I was approached by these two young guys. They were probably a little bit older than me, and they were super nice to me. And they basically said, "Hey, look, we're in the music industry. We're on our way to go return a really, really nice speaker system that basically they made a mistake on. The manufacturer accidentally shipped too many. We just sold one of them, and we're trying to sell this one, make a little bit of money because our boss is an a-hole, and he's just going to take it for himself if we bring it back. So we've got this extra inventory, and we're trying to sell it." And being 19 years old and interested in super nice stereo systems at the time, I said, "All right, well, let me take a look at what you're looking at." So sure enough, they go around back, they pop up in the trunk. There it is. And I'm skeptical because I think that I thought I was a smart 19-year-old. I'm obviously dumb. I was missing some brain cells, but I was skeptical at the time. And I was like looking at it, and I said, all right. And they actually get a magazine. They start flipping through this magazine. It's got a bunch of it's all music stuff, speakers, surround sound systems. And it's a whole magazine, right? This thing's like legit. It's got a barcode on it and everything. I'm looking at the box, and I'm like, wow. And he points to a spot in the booklet. It says $2,500. I was like, holy crap. I said, man, I got to go. I was like, well, I'll give you $50 for it. And the guy's reaction was like, no, I can't do that. It's a $2,500 speaker system, man. It's got to be worse than that. And I was like, all right, well, I'll give you $100 for it. And he's like, dude, come on, man. Like, dude, this is a really nice system. I said, all right, well, open the box real quick. And so, like, he got a utility knife. We kind of cut the tape. We carefully unpacked it. It was in styrofoam. Looked really good. I was like, holy crap, this does look nice. All right. Talked me up to $300. And we drove back to the apartment I was staying in. I gave them the $300, and those guys must have just been laughing all the way to the bank because they were like waving bye to me, because that was a bunk stereo system from China or something. I mean, it didn't even work at all. I basically got scammed. I got completely screwed on that deal. And I feel like a lot of people get screwed on their investment decisions because they're just frozen in fear and they don't want to make a decision. They think people are out to, screw them over, or if they hear something that's a really great opportunity, that it's too good to be true. So I want to talk about like how exactly some of these real estate deals can offer such attractive returns. And we're also going to talk about the risks involved as well. But before we jump in, if you get value from these episodes, show us some love. Give us some reviews, hit the stars. If you're on your phone, hop on the podcast real quick, scroll down till you see the stars, click the 5-star review or the 4-star review or 3 or 2. If you feel that way, even the 1, just give us some good feedback if you're going to give us a 1-star review, because we're always trying to deliver great content and deliver more, and hitting those reviews is how we do that. Also, if you've been interested in learning more about creating passive income from real estate, completely hands-off, letting other people do the work, head on over to our website, hbgcapital.net. grab and absorb all the free content. We really try to put life-changing content on the website. If you feel like you want to get to know us better, go ahead and schedule a call. That link's on the website. We look forward to getting to know you. All right, so let's jump in. 10, 20, 30%. These are numbers that I've seen on some of these IRRs. And if you're a new listener, IRR just stands for internal rate of return. It's basically the ROI that you're getting on your money over time. So if you got $100,000 invested and you make $10,000 on that in a year, your IRR was 10%. So a lot of these real estate deals, man, I see a lot of them that are like 20, 22, 23, 24%. I mean, these are some pretty staggering numbers, and on the surface, it looks too good to be true. But let's jump into a deal that we just finished up and explain how these attractive returns can actually be achieved. And, maybe some things that you can do to kind of get yourself out there and start looking at these things. There's a ton of great resources out there. I'm not going to recommend just one, but, do some research online. There's tons of Google and SEO services that can steer you in the right direction to find some of these. The news is full of them, but these deals are out there if you just look for them. So I'm going to break down the mechanics of a deal that we just sold. So we had a deal that was 36 townhomes. We raised the money from investors, and we told them that we were projecting an 18% IRR. So if you had $100K invested, we were projecting that each year it would make $18,000 up to the point where we return your principal. And again, it's important to note that we don't guarantee anything. You can't do that. So there's no guarantees involved, but we send some projections out, and here's how we were able to essentially do that. So we had anticipated building these 36 townhomes. We raised the capital for it, and we first had to do all of the ground infrastructure. So this was clearing the land, grading it, putting all the sewer in, putting all the water in, putting the utilities, the internet cables, putting in the telephone poles, having the public works come out and run power and everything to it, the roads, the sidewalks, everything. And we finished this development deal, and we're about to go vertical, and we got a knock on the door from a national builder who had recognized it and said, "Hey, we want to buy this deal." And we said, "Well, it's not for sale. We're about to go vertical on this thing." He said, "Well, we really, really want to buy. Can we just make you an offer?" And we said, "Sure." And they made us an offer, and we took that deal. We would have been crazy not to take that deal. We purchased the land for about $520,000, and we put roughly, I want to say somewhere around $800-900 into the land, somewhere around there. So our all-in cost basis was like 1.3, 1.4, somewhere around there. And this was all investor capital. Now, again, we'd plan on building, using this as equity to get construction loans and build. But we got an offer for $2.4 million on this piece of land. And I guess the reason they were able to do that was because they were they're national builders, right? Their building cost is probably $40 a foot less than ours. So all their profit was built into being able to save the costs. And so it made sense for us to go ahead and just sell this deal. Well, if you factor in, a $1.3 million, $1.4 million cost basis, your payments to investors, if you're projecting an 18% annualized return, if that's what you're shooting for, not guaranteeing, that's going to come somewhere in the ballpark of like $230,000, if my math is right, somewhere around there. So our all-in new cost basis with investor returns was somewhere around $1.6 million on this particular deal. And then we had all this equity baked in up until that 2.4 purchase price. So literally we had somewhere in the ballpark, I think it was like $700,000 is what we ended up making on this deal. All of that was just upside for us. So being able to look at how much upside is in the deal as a passive investor is very, very important to being able to see, okay, can I trust whether or not this person is going to be able to deliver these crazy returns? And for that particular deal, we were able to deliver an 18% IRR, and it worked out fantastic. We exited the deal early, and everybody was happy, and we moved on to the next deal. So it is possible. You've got to understand where that equity is coming from. So for a lot of these large, apartment deals that that investors do. There's usually a pref and then an equity kicker. So the pref is like passive income that's usually sent out in quarterly distributions. Well, if the operator is purchasing the apartment complex for $10 million and then upping the rents by like $200 or $300, they are increasing the value. Let's say it's to $15 million. So you got $5 million baked in. On a $10 million purchase, my guess is they probably had to raise somewhere around $2 to $3 million, depending on how much the repairs were. And so if you're doing, let's say, a 20% return, and say you're shooting for a 20% IRR return to your investors, and your investors have contributed $3 million on this particular deal, you're basically saying, hey, investors, we think that we can get you about $600,000 per year that your $3 million is tied up in the deal. Not bad. So if you're able to create $5 million of equity as a sponsor, or if you're an investor, if your sponsor is able to create $5 million worth of equity through increasing the rents, reducing the cost, becoming more efficient, getting rid of the vacancies, it can substantially increase the value of that apartment complex. And it's not uncommon to see an apartment go from 10 to 15 to even $20 million through this value add program. That's where your equity comes from. That's where your money comes from. And there's so much of it that you're able to pay the investors, these pretty decent double-digit returns because of the amount of equity that you're creating in the deal through your business plan. It's an important note that there are risks, so it can go in the opposite direction if somebody doesn't execute well on the business plan. If interest rates go up crazy high and the debt can't be serviced at the refinance rate or the acquisition rate, that equity could disappear. And as an investor, your equity is being used as leverage to get a bank loan. That bank loan has to be paid back first before you are paid back. Once the bank loan is paid back, then you can get paid back. So if it goes in the opposite direction, if you're not investing with a rock solid operator who's done many, many, many of these types of deals, or not a rock solid sponsor that has turned many, many, many of these types of deals, I would be careful to do that. You want to make sure, because if it goes in the opposite direction and that sell price or that refinance price, whatever it is not enough to cover the bank loan, that means that all the investor equity has essentially been wiped out. Or if you're refinancing, then the investor equity is kept in to that particular deal and can't get out. So very important you understand that. But that's the reason why you're able to deliver such great returns, is because you're able to use the equity as leverage. And if there's $2 million, that means it's a $10 million deal. Then it's a function, that IRR is a function of what the equity is able to get based on the leverage that it's able to produce. So leverage is the reason why these fantastic double-digit IRRs can be turned in real estate. It is possible. Not everybody is out there trying to screw you, but do be careful. Do your research on the sponsor. Do your research on the operator. Thoroughly vet them. Thoroughly vet the deal. That's all for today. We'll see you next time.